Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. You are tuned in to State of the Art, the future of photography, future trends in AI and photography. I got through it. We had a little too much fun, or maybe I did, in the green room. I'm looking at Cliff's face when we're getting ready to go live. I'm trying not to laugh. And as I'm finally pulling it together to get a straight face, half of my studio falls off the shelf right in front.
Oh no.
Oh no.
What a day. Welcome, guys. Good to see
Good to
you.
be back.
Great to have you guys once again. Are you guys in two different areas of the world this time? Same place?
Yep, I'm
Two
back
different
in New
areas.
York. I'm in the mother country, New York. Cliff is in exotic Switzerland.
I'm in
Always
my happy
somewhere.
place over here.
Always somewhere. I wish I were in your happy place. That's my happy place too. So enjoy it for me. Another wild, fun AI adventure coming at us today. So I know you guys have a lot on the addendum. So I'm going to get out of the way. Remind you all, if you do have any questions, drop them in the YouTube chat. And I'm going to turn it over to the experts here.
Thank you, Derek.
You there?
All right, guys, I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about the state of the art, and we're going to really be talking about news and updates with AI and photography. If you guys want to learn more about the future of photography, please check out our website at www.futureof.photography, or just scan this QR code. We're starting a community to keep you updated on all the news that have to do with photography and AI, so check it out. I'm here with Cliff Pickett. Are you there, Cliff?
I am here.
Perfect.
I am here. I am halfway across the world. Hopefully the internet doesn't cut out over here. There's a pretty bad storm.
Oh, well.
But we're really excited. This is, I think, the fifth or sixth installment of this, and there will be more to come too. And for this presentation, we're going to focus a lot on updates, what's in the news, keep you guys kind of informed of what's going on, and then talk about maybe what's going to happen in the future, where things are headed.
Great, so let's get started. So a couple basic things we're going to talk about is the Adobe user agreement. There's a new user agreement that was quite challenging for a lot of people when it got posted last month in June. I know this is our first real chat since then, so it's a big update on our part. We're going to talk about Meta's updates. Midjourney 6.1 actually came out today, so we'll be talking about that. And we'll be talking about Apple's new MGIE. How do you say, Cliff?
I'm saying it Maggie. I'm not sure if anyone else is, but I'm going to start a trend over here. I'm going to start a new trend.
All right, good. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to talk about is Adobe. So I think it was around June 6th. They had this pop-up window. I'm not sure if you guys caught it, popped up on everyone's screen, and it said, update your term of use. And in order to proceed with your Lightroom, Photoshop, whatever, you actually just had to hit accept. But what they did do was they changed a bunch of their terms, and this made photographers and artists very unhappy. So when you click through, this is the terms that they had changed. Under the Adobe Privacy Policy 2.2, they changed our access to your content. In their policy, they said, we may access, view, or link to your content. Our automated systems may analyze your content using techniques such as machine learning in order to improve our services and our software. Under content, which is 4.1, they said content means any text, information, communication, material, audio files, video files, documents, images that you upload or import or use basically any Adobe products or software with. And lastly, they talked about ownership. On 4.2, they said to license your content, in licensing your content, they said we grant them a non-exclusive worldwide royalty-free license to use, reproduce, publicly display, distribute, modify, create a work that we have created basically in Adobe Photoshop. So, I mean, you could read it on your own. I guess I think the photography community was pretty much up in ends, upset because it was saying that basically Adobe, if you read it like how I'm reading it, it's kind of saying that they were taking away our privacy, they were owning our content, and there was some confusion. So a lot of people were upset about this. Why would Adobe do this? Well, I think maybe they were looking for some consent. They were asking for permission for content they might have used. I don't know. These are kind of speculations. Maybe they were even training their AI images for their program called Firefly. But basically, in the world of today, everyone's racing to be the best AI image maker, and Firefly is a contender. So in order to be the best AI image maker, you need more content. So if you read the policy as it was, it kind of sounded like they were going to use your content if you use any of the Adobe products. That was a lot of people's interpretation. So a lot of people were upset, and Adobe, they came back and they said, listen, we didn't mean to say that. So they rewrote their information. Cliff, if you want to handle this part, they basically came back and they had an update on their user agreement and saying that what we had interpreted, a lot of photographers had interpreted, we had interpreted it wrong.
Yeah, I think rightly so. A lot of photographers took to the internet with a lot of comments, and that's the last thing you want to hear is ownership. Anything other than the word "you own it all," right? Like anything other than that was a little concerning for people. And then there's a feeding frenzy, right? Then there's a lot of speculation. What are they using our content for? Are they selling it? And there is a bit of a race to, every major player right now is trying to get access, trying to get as much data as possible for their AI. So rightly so, I think there's a lot of people that were genuinely concerned. It's not absolutely clear what the intentions were. I don't think it's as bad as, malicious as people, conspiracy theories tend to think. So Adobe took the time to really explain this. And I think that's a good part of this presentation is to help clarify things and bring things to light in a way that's more factual. So we're not just jumping on the bandwagon with people's, ideas or opinions one way or the other. So this is really copied right from Adobe's new terms of agreement to clarify things. So section 2.2, that was, and to make it worse, actually, it was redacted, I believe, at first. And then the judge deemed it was actually relevant information to release to the public. So that kind of generated more conspiracy theories from there. So no one but you owns your content, like right off the bat. That's really important, right? But they do need to access your content to operate certain applications, which is totally fine. So they're really trying to clear this up. We review content that is on our servers. That's a key one here. The screen for certain types of illegal content, right? So again, our servers, that means things that are on the cloud, not on your local computer, right? They clarify that very specifically, and then rightly so as well, right? So they give examples of illegal content, right? So that's why they have to do it. A person may review your content, so there's just a person, it's not just a machine, in very limited circumstances, such upon your request, which use your content to improve our products. And then I like the idea that they add, here's what we don't do, right? You don't see that too often in terms of agreement, but there's a lot at stake here, right? So here's what we don't do. We don't scan on review content that is stored locally on your device, like I said. We also do not train our generative AI models on you or your customers' content unless you submitted the content to the Adobe Stock Marketplace. So everything on your local computer is fine. Everything in the cloud, they do it for a specific reason. They're not training their AI based upon it unless, there's that asterisk there, if it's going to be used for Adobe Stock Marketplace. That is fairly standard in the industry. So they're just clarifying things. No scanning review local content. This is just another snippet of their actual terms of service. And then the generative AI as well. We will not use your local content. So it's just something to clarify, right? It's not that we're offering really an opinion one way or the other. We understand people's concerns, and this is coming directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
This is actually also on Adobe's website. It was basically a summary, kind of hitting all the bullet points. Like Cliff had said, we don't own your content. We don't train AI with customer content. You choose to participate, which is kind of a little bit interesting because basically they're choosing for us to participate. We have to opt out. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you guys how to opt out. They require to operate on our products or on behalf of activities needed. And Adobe does not scan locally stored stuff on your computer. So, I mean, I think this scared a lot of people, and Adobe's kind of putting the fires out and saying what they're saying. Do we believe them? I don't know. The verdict's still out. I hope to believe them. I like to trust Adobe because I use their products, and Hopefully they're not selling my content, but this is kind of their latest clarification of their terms of use. But if you're still concerned and you want to opt out, let me show you guys how to do it. Oh, this was their last piece. Adobe does not train their Firefly Gen I models, and they will never assume ownership. So let's say, so you know what? I believe them, but I also want to make sure they're not training on my data. The way to opt out is you go to https://accounts.adobe.com/privacy, or just go to your Adobe Cloud and then you say manage my account, which is right here. This is what it looks like on my page. Manage my account. Basically, you click on your little Adobe Cloud, which I think you can see right here. This window pops up, manage my account, and then you go to your account and security page, and then you go to data and privacy settings. So under there, you're going to get these two windows. Share information on how I use Adobe desktop apps. They just say they don't use or look at our desktop. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So you're going to say, no, I don't want you to do that. So you're going to turn it off. And then here, allow Adobe to analyze my content, processed or stored on Adobe servers. So then you're going to turn that off. So my only wish for Adobe is, instead of making us turn off that we don't want to use it, why don't you turn it off? And then people who want their stuff to be looked at and help you develop your programs, we can opt into it. And a lot of companies do this. They make you check out instead of checking in. And I feel like that really needs to be turned around.
Yeah, I will say that this is fairly standard, right? I don't think Adobe's really up to anything here. They're not trying to get away with anything. And even say at the bottom of that second paragraph, right? This setting does not allow Adobe to analyze their content to train generative AI models, right? There's a lot of other things going on the internet, and it is fairly standard for people to have a default opt-in instead of opt-out. So they're not alone in doing this, but they do make it clear what their intentions are here. And it's very standard for most software if you really look into it, to just about every software I can think of, even with photography. They do ask for permission typically when you first sign up, to give them access to the way you use that content. And that's what they do, so they can learn a little bit better about how their users use their software so they can improve upon that software. So it is fairly standard.
One of the things I was listening to was about how, yeah, they're kind of monitoring for, unsafe imagery of, let's say, children pornography and things like that. But, it's kind of interesting. What if it's like a boudoir shoot, and that's a very sensitive material. So I think when I was watching a couple other YouTubers talk about this, they talked about like how other companies will actually have similar things where they're doing some monitoring it, and the people monitoring it don't have a moral code. So they'll start sharing sensitive material that they saw, and who knows, it kind of worries me that someone is monitoring it. I hope that the people who work for Adobe have a moral code. It won't share the images that maybe not be child pornography, but might be something a little bit more risque that is totally acceptable to photograph with their friends. It's just interesting. We live in interesting times, and it's hard to trust everybody. So
Yeah.
moving on to other things, other Adobe news. So Adobe has not had a good month. They have a Federal Trade Commission announced a civil enforcement action against Adobe Inc. because the lawsuit alleges that the defendants imposed a hidden early termination fee on millions of subscribers. So let's say you are one of those people who don't trust Adobe anymore and you tried to unsubscribe. First of all, you were slammed with an early termination fee that nobody talks about. And other problem is they've made it a challenge to cancel Adobe membership. That's actually part of the lawsuit. Like, they make it hard for you, like make you jump through a bunch of rings and such, so that you don't cancel your membership and you just give up and you keep on paying monthly. So Adobe, I hope you fix these problems so that people can use your product securely, and if they don't want to use their product, that they can easily cancel.
Yeah, I do think that they're gonna resolve that. I know that they're working on it. And again, like, speculation about their intentions here, but at the same time, it has been, widely known throughout the industry that's been difficult when you do try and remove yourself from their platform. and the early termination fee, they do need to make it a little bit more straightforward. So, we'll see what they do. It's nice to see that they turn this around. So it's been a tough month for
Yeah.
Adobe.
It has been.
It has been.
Uh,
I think through the clarification though, I think they're gonna be okay. They just need to clarify things a little bit more, be a little bit more upfront and transparent. And I think that goes not just for them. There's a lot going on these days in AI, and everything's about data. And honestly, I think that's it's a bit of a trend right now that we really have to kind of push back. And I'm glad photographers sort of took to the internet and stepped up. And I think even these lawsuits too will kind of, it'll help us get to a place where there's an assumption that we can be more transparent. The companies have a requirement to be more transparent, because our photographs and our work and our art are very important, and it needs to be treated as such. All
and
right,
it's
speaking of that, this is a good transition too. So Meta, formerly known as Facebook, and this includes Instagram as well, because they own Instagram. This has been kind of going on in the news recently as well. This has been making its rounds. So along this line of, and we've spoken about this before, this idea of making sure people have an understanding of what's real and what's not, right? And this is being challenged right now, the authenticity of our photography. So I think it's in everyone's best interest that we do have something that indicates whether or not a photograph is real or not. But sometimes it's not implemented. Oftentimes it's not implemented properly, right? So Meta to show AI info. This is the new way they're going to show it instead of this. And some of you may be familiar with this if you posted your images to Instagram, for instance, recently. It'll say a little tag that says made by AI label on Instagram or Facebook, right? And a lot of people were very upset with this because you could imagine what happened, right? There are a lot of real photographs out there that were tagged as made by AI. And there were other photographs, for instance, that were tagged with made by AI when it was just a little bit of a removal of a photo. So in this instance here, this photograph is made by Matt Suez, and this went viral almost in the photo industry anyway, because there's a little bit of a sun flare here. That's that red arrow, and he just used the generative fill to remove it, and then all of a sudden it slaps that tag on, made by AI. And what the assumptions with the public then, at least it's not clear, is wait, was a whole photo just generated from AI, right? So we need a little bit more clarity on what it is was done. And that's a big part of this, right? So that started and Susan, you can go to the next slide. That
sure.
started this whole idea of, well, when do we get this sticker in the first place, right? So this is pulled off another photography website. And what they did was if they take this, again, this was a little dust speck that they used generative fill to remove. Second, use generative fill, and this is why we're mentioning this presentation, it's going to slap it with this made by AI, right? Now they're going to change that to AI edit with a little bit more information behind it. Now, what's interesting about this, though, is that to remove a dust speck, you can use other tools, right? You can use your clone stamp, you can use a healing brush. There's a lot of different ways that you can do the same and get the same result inside of Photoshop. And if you do it with the clone stamp or the healing brush, for instance, then it does not get met with this tag. So then now some photographers are, when they're trying to use the right tool, because it does save them a little bit of time, it's unclear about what is meant when we see made by AI. So, and to take things further, I think you can go to the next slide, Susan. There were real photographs that were tagged with this when nothing was used, not even a tiny little speck of dust, nothing, right? So here you're seeing the raw file on the right, you're seeing the edited photo on the left, and then you see that tag. And you go to the next slide as well. And so this is becoming, this is becoming a real problem. And it's not just about whether or not it's accurate, right? Because there's a whole thing about, well, is this accurate or not? If it's not accurate, then what the heck are we doing, right? When we're labeling real photos, that just goes a long way to add a little bit or cast a little bit more doubt as to the authenticity and realism of a photograph. But beyond that, and I like the intention of this, right? What they're trying to do is a good thing. They're trying to help people understand so that we do have authority, we do have authenticity in our photos, and we do have a way for the public to really understand and believe that something is real or not. But the problem is when they go a little too far, or if it's not done or implemented properly, then it gets confusing, right? So now what we really need is not just this tag. We need a little bit more clarity. What was done to this? So if a
Mm.
speck is removed, that's very different than an entire photo being generated with AI, which is entirely possible now. So that's why we went to this other model, and you can click on it to get more info. And I think this is going to develop over time. But it's another thing that was worth, mentioning in this presentation is if this happened to you, it has been addressed already, and I think it will continue to be addressed as a group, as a collective, as an industry. We need to further clarity about what it is that we're doing to our photos, so people understand exactly what that means.
So if you've been on Instagram lately, I actually never noticed this till I started researching it. There's a little button over here called Add AI Label. So, I mean, this was an image totally generated by AI because it's, I made it on Midjourney, should be having that label, Add AI Label. So this is just a post on Instagram. Now you can add these little levels. And then if you go to their help center, they explain to you why you should do it. Obviously, we're gaining trust, and then how it works, and then how to do it. So basically, you just look for this little button when you have made an image with AI. I think if I delete a spot, I'm not going to add that, but you can use it as you wish. But yes, this is how you do it. And if you have some questions, go to the help center of Instagram.
And notice how it's an opt-in, right? The
Yeah.
default, you're opted in,
I
and you
really
have to
wondered
know
how
about
many
it.
people are doing it. Exactly. Like
You
I
have to know
never
about it to opt
never
out.
noticed it, but I never use AI images except for today. And to
And
be
this
honest,
is going to be a cat and mouse game as
right.
well, right? Because the people who are just genuinely using the best tools for the job and not altering fundamentally the purpose and point of the photo, but to remove a dust speck or something like that, now they're being kind of penalized, and they're kind of falling into a whole group of what other people have referred to as the scarlet letter, for instance, right? When you see something slapped with this tag, all of a sudden you don't take it seriously anymore. So I
Mm.
think this does need to be addressed. And I think it is going to evolve. And, the people who are really trying to get away with something that have malicious intent, it's very easy for them simply to take a screenshot, right? There's so many different ways you can remove the metadata tags and then post the photo. And that will go a further way to undermine, the intention behind this. So I think while the intentions are good, this needs to be further developed in a way that genuinely does what it is supposed to do, which is gain back trust and authenticity in what it is that the general public is looking at.
Speaking of AI, we're going to be talking about Midjourney 6.1, which launched this morning. So really awesome timing. So if you guys have seen the previous version, I talked about Midjourney, and there's some updates. Basically, it's really just saying it's a better program. It says more coherent images, much better image quality, more precision, details, especially on eyes, faces, and hands. There's a new 2-time upscaler for better quality. It's roughly 25% faster. It improves text accuracy, which is true because I've been messing around with that. So that's great. And there's a new personalization mode. And basically, this is their words. Things should generally be more beautiful across the board. Well, thank you, Midjourney, for this update. I'm excited to dive into it. And let's kind of dive in. So if you guys saw my first presentation on Midjourney, it looked very different. That was something called Discord. And in order to activate Midjourney, you actually had to be on Discord. So that is still true. You do need to be on Discord till you create 100 images. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Midjourney is, I'll just back up a step and say Midjourney is a text-to-image creator. So basically, you type in some prompts, which are some words and descriptions, and it creates an image. So I know this kind of seems like, why would photographers want to use this? And I just say to explore your creativity. I'm not trying to create photos out of thin air. I'm actually trying to become more of an artist. Like Cliff would probably agree. You can feel more artistic by putting in some prompts and seeing some images, because I'm not a painter, so I can never create paintings like this. But it just actually gets my ideas kind of stirred when I see these representations of images. And hopefully for those of you guys who are open to it, we'll kind of give it a try. In no way do I think it should replace photography. So let's kind of dive in. I'm going to go over to the app, actually to the website.
Or yeah, there you go.
So the website actually is no longer on Discord. It is midjourney.com/imagine. So once you pay your $10 month fee, then you do Discord, which is a whole thing you guys can watch in a previous episode. But once you get 100 images, you're upgraded to this beautiful panel, which is so much more easy to see and easy to use with a lot more different ways to modify your images. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the whole look here. So we're going to start off. It's called Midjourney Alpha. Explore is really interesting because this is where you come to generate ideas, to be inspired. Here are the random pictures of the day. Here are the top pictures of the day, maybe voted by people. Here are some ones that I've liked along the way. So if I like a picture, I like to create a collection. I'll say, oh, I like him. And now if I want to go back and look at pictures that I like, I have this young man. And you can also look at the best pictures of the day. I like dogs, so I'm going to like this one. So it's not that I'm liking pictures just to like them, but I like the angle, or I like the look. So I can use this. And then another interesting thing is you can actually look at the prompt. And the prompt is the description that they use to create this picture. You can actually copy it and use it as your own prompt and adjust it to be a little bit different. Maybe you want this similar picture at sunset, or maybe you only want Dalmatians. So you can kind of learn from using this explore page of how to use this program or how to create images like this or similar images like this. So you can use their prompts.
Yeah, if I can just
Yep.
jump in for a second, I can't say enough about how much easier and more intuitive and simple this is compared to Discord. If anyone's tried Midjourney before, wow, like this is a huge difference. This is like genuinely this, I do believe this is one of the best text to image generators. And now it's so much more intuitive to use. People should really look into this if you haven't tried it before.
We're going to get into this create module next, but I'm just going to talk you through this left-hand side. Organize is not a new feature for 6.1. It was part of 6, but I didn't actually have an opportunity to tell you about it. It's great for actually organizing your pictures. You can look at the ones you've liked. You can look at the ones that are unrated, and you can kind of go through. You can even create a folder. So I've created a folder of AI presentation images I've used. So it's a great way to organize images. And even I really do recommend when you go through to like all the ones that you have, so then you instantly can use that filter to just say, hey, just show me the ones I liked. You can also look at the ones that you made that were square or the ones that you made that were portrait mode. You can look at different versions of images. There was a Midjourney 6 and Midjourney 5, so you can look through a bunch of different filters and kind of look at what you've already created. Lastly, chat is kind of a leftover thing from Discord. You can chat with people about images, share images. There's daily themes. And if you're a newbie, you can ask for advice. Tasks, this is interesting. If you wanted to get faster upload, or I guess that's when you create an image, faster creation speeds, you can rank images and you earn fast hours. The same thing if you create some surveys, then you earn fast hours. Honestly, I just use normal speed and never seems too slow. So now let's dive into the creation part. So this is our creation little search engine. And you'll notice if you've ever used Midjourney before, it doesn't have to be /imagine, which was kind of annoying. It was kind of your prompt that you had to always put in whenever you wanted something to be. Now you don't need to add it. So let's think of an interesting prompt. And when you're creating a prompt, I want you to think about a couple different things. Think about, since we're photographers, what it takes to make an interesting image. So we're going to think about the subject, the location, even the lighting. That's kind of if we're going to create a picture. But if you wanted to create, a scene, those are basically the three kind of things. So the more descriptions you can give about that, the better it'll be. So let's say we're going to do a koala. Almost forgot how to spell that. Riding a skateboard with a camera down a hill in New York City at sunset. A city, let's just put a city at sunset. So we have our subject. We have an action, which is always good too. We have environment, sunset, lighting will be sunset, and we have a location down a hill in the city. So that should be good, but this is something new that's great that Midjourney has. If you come over here, these three little things say, how else would you like to alter this? So we can make it a portrait, a square, or a landscape. And you can actually adjust the size by moving this lever back and forth. So we'll just say we want it to be a landscape. We can now make it standard or raw. And you're going to say, what does that mean? Guess what? They have these little question marks here that you can actually read what it means. So raw mode replaces the default aesthetic of some of the Midjourney model versions. Using it can create a more photorealistic image or more cinematic. So if you want it to look more realistic, use raw. If you want it to look more cute and creative, then you use standard. So we want it to look more raw. This is version 6.1, which just updated today. If you want to use some of your personalized standards, so let's say I went through and I ranked a bunch of pictures, then it knows what I like, and you would say, yes, use my kind of rankings as a code to kind of go through and make my pictures look more like that. But since I haven't ranked any pictures, I'm going to keep that turned off. Over here, we're going to go to stylize. So let's look at what this means. Good question mark here. It says, stylize influences how strongly Midjourney is applied. Low stylization will produce images that are more closely matched to your prompt, but are less artistic. High stylization will create images that are artistic, but less connected to the prompt. So I think let's kind of put it right in the middle. So remember, if you want it to be more closer to the prompt, you go low. If you want it to be more imaginative, you go to the right. Weirdness is interesting too. It introduces quirky qualities to generate your image, resulting in unique and unexpected outcomes. So let's put this as 0 at the moment. We can try it out later. And variety. Variety means if you want to have a variety of different images. Influences how varied the images are. High values will produce unusual and unexpected results in compositions. Lower values will be more reliable and repeatable results. So let's kind of keep it, let's put it at 10. And then the speed, I'm just going to keep it at fast. That's kind of the standard. Turbo is what you do those rankings for to get more turbo powers, but I like to keep it at fast. It works pretty quick. So that really explains everything. See how simple it is? All you're doing is moving a couple different levels. And what I like about it is Midjourney just used to be, you could only do whatever it says. Now they've given you some parameters to adjust, which I really, really like. So it creates 4 different pictures for you. Oh, let's spread this out more. Great.
If
So
anyone's tried to use Midjourney before, it was very frustrating, those parameters, right? You really had to understand them and put the semicolon in the right space. It's way more intuitive now, way more user-friendly.
these
Look
are
at
so
me.
cute. I mean, we could look at each one individually. That is totally koala riding a skateboard at sunset with a camera. That one is so cute too. I mean, I love them all. This one's wearing a t-shirt and it looks like he's shooting a Canon. And this one is totally shooting a Fuji. I'm going to go with this one because I really like the backlight. I like his features. I like that it looks like fall. Super cute. So if I liked it, I could just say, okay, I'm ready to download it, but I wouldn't do that. I'm going to come over here now that we've made a version. And this is our, oh, went to the other ones. This is our panel right here that gives us more actions to take. So if we go to vary makes the image similar to the one with slight changes. So you can do subtle or strong. You can upscale it. So let's say we're like ready to say this is the final version and you wanted a higher quality version of this, you could say subtle. And it's kind of interesting. You can take it as it is, but if you upscale it, you get a larger version of it, but it's not going to be identical because there's going to be a subtle change or there's going to be a creative change. So if you look at creative change, I read it before. The creative will actually enhance the picture and subtle will just be a little bit differently. So we can decide what we want to do when it comes to that point. Remix is interesting. And I love this feature. We're going to do it. So we're going to remix it in a subtle way. So actually, let's go for a strong way. So when you say remix, you're saying, I want to keep this image, like basically the structure of it, but I want to change some things. So it gives you an opportunity to change the prompt. So I have a koala riding a skateboard downhill in the city at sunset. So we're going to say at blue hour and a koala riding a skateboard in a tuxedo with a camera down a hill in the city. So everything else is the same. We've said make it a strong remix. So let's try it. So let's get out of this, close out this image. It's going to remake this one. See what happens. Hopefully it comes back at blue hour. So you guys can see how fun it is. And now the greatest thing about these updates is that it gives you prompts. So you can actually see it. So we still got a little bit of sunset happening. Not quite blue hour, but he is wearing a tuxedo. So I would probably run it through the prompt again. Still super cute. Look at this one. He's wearing a vest, a little coat. But look at that koala. That is so cute. So it didn't get all of the actions. I would probably try again one more time because I actually did this for a previous one. And on the second time, it got the blue hour right, but it didn't, it got everything else right. But for some reason, it didn't understand it. So we got him wearing a tuxedo, so it's half right. So let's go back to this one. Now we could do another thing. So let's say we said we want to actually see more of this picture. So we're past remix, we're in pan, and pan means we can create a more, expand actually the scene. So I'm actually going to expand the scene to the right. So I'm going to say, okay, expand the scene to the right. It's going to remix the picture. And now he's going to be skateboarding and we need a little bit more space to the right. So we'll close out of the picture. It builds for more of them. So let's say you want to expand your picture, you can keep on expanding it. The interesting part about this is that when you expand it, you can only expand it in one direction. So let's say I want to expand it up or down, I have to keep it a vertical. If I expand it left and right, I could keep on expanding it, but it can only be left and right. So look at that. That's pretty believable. We got a nice tree over there, a nice background. The roads continued. That looks pretty cool. If I wanted to do any more actions, we could zoom in. If we wanted to be closer, we could rerun the whole thing, repaint it. Oh, so this is interesting. Let's say we didn't like, let's pick a different picture actually. So let's pick, let's say we didn't like this Fuji camera. It looks like a Fuji, right? Maybe we'll take this one. Let's say we didn't like this camera. So we could go over here and this is really, oh man, I keep scrolling too far. Let me move this thing. All right, so we're here. I wanted to fix the more repaint. So this is what we're looking for. So I'm going to go to repaint, and what repaint does is you're able to change one item. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to kind of select the camera. I did a poor job of selecting it. I'm going to escape it. I'm going to redo it one more time, repaint, and I'm going to just point over the camera. So what should he hold, Cliff, instead of a camera? A beer bottle, maybe?
Maybe a beer and an ice cream.
Don't get too crazy.
Okay, choose one.
Maybe since this is, well, let's put a pizza.
Pizza.
Why not? Your job has been submitted. Great. So we're going to wait till that one comes up, but I'll just continue to show you some other things. So you can actually take parts of the pictures. It's not great, but we'll see what happens. You can also change the image, the style, and the prompt. So let's see what these mean. So if you want to add an image, you can for a frame reference, kind of like if you guys remember how Firefly was, you can add an image that it will keep the structure of it and you can manipulate it. So that's pretty cool. You could change the style of it, make it a noir, all those kind of styles. If you remember from Firefly, they have that, or you could just change your prompt in the bar. So this is pretty cool. I'll show you guys. Let's see what happened with this one koala. What did he end up holding? He's holding a pizza. Oh my God, this koala is so cute. There we go. That's a pepperoni pizza. And he's skateboarding with the pepperoni pizza. Okay, so nailed it. So you guys could just see how much fun this is. And once we're ready, I'm going to say, okay, I love this picture. I'm going to upscale it. I'm going to make it creative. And so I'd say this is my final version. I'm going to heart it too. And we're going to go, oh, it's already created. So I didn't even, so now we have two coming. So we can actually see what that looks like. So we've created a final version and we can upscale it and then we'll just export it. And to export a picture, see how fast it moves? It moves pretty fast. To export a picture, you use this one little downward button and there we go. Gonna go back here. Any other suggestions of something we want to create before we move on?
I think this is perfect because we still have a few more things to cover.
Okay, I get sucked into this
I
program.
know, I know. But like, here's the thing. I mean, this is freaking adorable, right? But from a practical standpoint too, for photographers, I think it's worth mentioning. I mean, think about what it's like if you're working with a client and you're trying to convey an idea for a shoot,
Mm,
right? And as a mood board, or you say, I want a model here, and they're going to be the dress is going to look like this, and their hand's going to look like this, and we need these props, and this is the background we're looking for. It's so difficult, and I genuinely understand what it's like to be frustrated as an artist to convey your idea in your head out there into the ether, into someone else, so that they understand your vision before you go to execute and you buy the props and you get the model and you get there at sunset or sunrise or whatever. This is perfect to get whatever it is in your head out there in a beautiful, concise, creative way that can really convey what it is your vision is, and then go out and execute that. Right. And this is so much simpler than it used to be. I can't say that enough. So it makes it more intuitive than ever, right? To really get this vision that you have and share it with others, and then use that as a jumping off point for your photography.
I mean, they're so cute. Okay,
They
moving
really
on.
are.
All right, going back to the presentation. Sorry, guys. All
No,
right,
that's perfect because it launched today. Usually we do the
yeah,
presentation and then 2 or 3 days later there's like a major announcement.
yeah.
So it just worked in our favor this time, that we are able to get something that launches on the day. And I do think that Midjourney, like pound for pound, is the best, the most realistic. I mean, I can't imagine a better koala bear in a tuxedo on a skateboard at sunset eating a pizza. I mean, that was incredible.
Sure.
But now it's more intuitive and accessible than ever. So I certainly recommend people try. All right, moving on. Apple and AI. So in true Apple form, Apple is getting into the game a little late. And that's not even a knock on Apple. I'm a big Apple user. It's just they wait until things get to a certain point and then they do it better than everybody else. And that's been proven time and time and time again. And so now they're going to get into the AI game. And, we'll see about this, but mark my words, they're going to come out with things that are better than everybody else. It's kind of what they do. They wait for a while and then they do it the best. So now they announced last month that they're going to get into the AI game, of course, that was going to happen. So I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Um, it's going to be basically implemented in everything on all devices, right? And that's a one-way street from here on in. I'm not going to get to everything that has to do with helping you write an email or the things with Siri necessarily. But there are things that apply to photography that's really important to understand, right? So image creation, now it's going to have its own text to image generator, so to speak. You can create completely original images and with a very simple request. We're going to get into that in a second. Genmoji, I think is going to be really cool. It sounds a little ridiculous. It's like an emoji that you can apply to other photo, like a photo of someone else. It's a better way of saying that. And
Let's
it
be
can
real.
generate.
I think the future is avatars, right, Cliff?
Yeah,
We're not creating emoji. It's going to be an avatar of ourselves. No
it's
one.
going to be an avatar, and beyond that, like, so now you can create this really cool avatar of others in your contacts. But
Right.
there's also another technology that's coming out that I'm not going to talk about here that lets you create a 360 avatar of someone's complete body and then put that in space. So it's a start of something really cool. The cleanup is really interesting. We're going to get to that in the next slide. The powerful search, I don't have a slide fast, so I'll just talk about that here. Search has gotten a lot better. You can be very, very specific about what you're looking for, like a koala bear, on a skateboard eating a pizza, and it will dismiss all the other koala bears that are drinking a beer, that are eating ice cream, and just give the pizza. It's very specific, right? Then we have this image wand, which is going to be kind of interesting. When you're creating a note, you can create this wand and you can generate things that are contextual. Again, like just getting this vision in your head. I think this is a golden age in a lot of regards for creatives, because we have these tools that allow us to get whatever's in our head out there and share with others in a very simple, fast, and intuitive way to do it. And then creating memory movies. This is really cool. So I think I have a slide on that too. So let's jump to the next slide.
Oop, I think it's too
Cleanup.
far.
Yeah.
Here we go. Clean up.
See if you can play. Okay, perfect. So it's already playing. So you'll see what's happening here, how it just removed those people in the background. Just like that. This is, I think, probably the most important single thing you can do to a photo and post at this point, right? I mean, normalize it, sure, bring up highlights and these, that's fairly standard at this point. At this point, that happens at the point of capture, but removing those little distractions for someone, for both of us who's been traveling on the road with our workshops for the last 2 or 3 months, Venice, Rome, right? All these people, even today I'm out in Switzerland, a bunch of people are, it's not even a problem anymore. But the issue is, and it's so easy to fix, you have to bring it into Lightroom, you have to bring it into Photoshop, you have to use the Gen Remove or the Gen Fill. Now we can do this right on our phones, basically right after the point of capture. And it's such a stress reliever to know that you can remove those people. You're not fundamentally changing the photo, but this is such a welcome addition. And it's just going to be right there on the bottom right hand side. One click, remove those items or distractions. I can't wait for this. Okay, memories. I'll be really quick about that. It's basically just going to auto aggregate based upon whatever prompt that you set to find the photos you're looking for, create a movie, create a narrative arc around the movie, add contextual photo or contextual music or audio, right? So it'll let the music match whatever the context or the story is about and build a beautiful movie based upon what it is you want to create, aggregating all the content that you have on your phone. It's going to be really cool and just another nice way that you can create meaningful memories and share those with your loved ones. So I'm really excited to see it. None of these are actually available yet, so don't go looking for this on your phone if you're watching this in July or even August. Around September, October, and just know that they did just announce recently there's going to be a little bit of a delay on this. So we'll probably see this after the launch of the new iPhone sometime in Q4 of this year. All right, and this is the last one that it's worth really mentioning here. This is going to get really interesting. So this is what I call Maggie. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better than a multi-model large language model guided image editing.
I don't think so.
Right? We're going to call it Maggie. So we know what a large language model is. That's what ChatGPT is. Multimodal just means it's more than language. It's images, it's illustrations, it's audio, it's video, that kind of thing. Right? So we're talking about photos here. That's a multimodal part. And then guided image editing. That's the interesting part here. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, you probably don't, but I mentioned this several episodes ago when we talked about the future of editing, because we had one dedicated just on editing. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. It's still pretty cool. It's very relevant. What this is going to allow us to do is interface in a way with our photos that allow us to achieve what our vision is the best possible way using AI to do so. So right now we're using AI we're going to make a lasso, select the object, use AI to turn the pizza into an ice cream cone or something like that, right? Or to remove a dust spot, or to remove that distraction in the background. Now we just talk to it. It's like having an editor next to you that is an expert at everything inside of Lightroom and Photoshop, and you just ask them, hey, do you mind removing that person in the background? So these are a few examples on the bottom of the screen. And it's contextual, so it understands your intention. So that pizza is very interesting. You're not just going to say, add vegetables. You can say something like, make it healthier, right? That's going to be really interesting. When you don't know exactly what it is, you could say, like, make this brighter. And in layman's terms, that just means turn the exposure up. But what the computer model should understand, what the AI should understand, is create a light source in one part of the image and cast light on one side and shadow on the other. It's going to get a lot more interesting, the editing soon, when we can interface this. So basically, I put that text up there, describe in plain language what it is that you want to change in a photo, and it will do it without you knowing what tools to use or even how to use them. Now, a lot of people might be up in arms about this. I'm not so much, right? This is the way this is going. You shouldn't have to be a technical expert to achieve the vision that you have in the photo. And there is going to be this symbiotic relationship, I think, or a very close relationship between your vision and your ability to do so. And the AI has a real potential there to do this. So I think it's going to be a really fascinating thing to see what happens. You can go to the next slide, because I think that's pretty much like the last slide is, what do you guys think, right? I mean, is this the future of editing? I'm very interested to see where this is going to lead. I'd love to be able to take a photo of friends or family and see those distractions in the background and just say, like, remove the person in the green shirt, or, or put a different hat on that person, or put a tuxedo on that koala bear. But things like remove the dust spots, right? Or can you sharpen this up a little bit? Or can you just lift the shadows up but only on the face. And before, you'd have to know how to create, and this is what I do for a living, right? How to create an area of the photo, make a mask, make a selection, and then intersect that with the subject matter so it falls off on the person, but not the background, and then bring the exposure up. But no, if you do, you have to increase the contrast. You don't have to know any of that. What you have to know, though, is the most important part. And the most important part is not how to do something, it's what to do, right? That's you, that's your vision, that's your voice. And this is going to help you achieve that faster and more intuitively than ever before. And this isn't going to just be Apple. Like I said before, Apple waits until the right time and they do it best, right? I think other people are going to jump on this bandwagon a little bit. You're going to start seeing this more and more of just another way of interacting using AI and interacting with computers in a way that you can just kind of talk to it and it will do what it is that you intend to do. So I'm very, eager to see what this is going to look like.
Yeah, I agree. It's really exciting. I am worried about one thing. Are we just going to get a world of perfect pictures? Like, if we always remove all the things and we perfect everything, something about that, I'm lacking authenticity. I get it, removing like a background person taking a selfie, totally. But in the future, will everyone just try and perfect everything about a picture? Like,
I
I
think
think
they
about,
will.
yeah.
I think they will. And then I think it will backfire. And then I think there will be a shift back towards authenticity, right? You're seeing the younger generation now shifting towards film cameras. You're seeing this more and more. This is a new trend. And I think you're already seeing this in photo contests, right? You're seeing AI sections, right? Entirely different segments of contests are just for AI. It is turning into an art form in and of itself. Not that it has to be, right? But if it can help you achieve your vision, and I think this is going to level off, and I think it's going to get um, a little bit more streamlined in a way, but I think it's going to be a little bit more formalized in the way that we assume how we're going to interface with technology, because it's nothing new. We could always clone and heal and remove objects in the background and replace backgrounds entirely and put people, you just had to be an expert, right? And now it's the fact that you don't have to be an expert that are getting people up in arms, and it will be misused. And absolutely. And I think there will be that session that we need to get through, but when we get on the other side of that, I do think the technology overall in the long run, because I am a glasses half full person, is going to allow more people the ability to share their vision, their voice with the world than ever before, and do it in a way that's effective rather than just taking all the time to try and perfect the skill set and only enough to get to your vision. And if you can get to your vision closer, faster, more intuitively, it opens that door up for a lot more people. And in the end, everyone benefits. And I think we do have to get up that off on the other side of that hurdle of authenticity and the reality of it, because it is going to be a testing and a proving ground for a little bit. But I think we will come out the other side and we're going to start seeing technology like this help us get there.
Awesome.
Alexa, make me hot.
All right, that's our last slide. Yeah, that's a
I
lot
want
to
to
leave you guys on.
start. No, that was that was a lot. That was like a good dive in though, because there's so much stuff that's so relevant now, and it's still even gonna be way more relevant the further. I feel like it's like a spiral, and we're just further getting into it, and we're gonna hit a point where we don't know which way is up and which way is down. And I want to start, Cliff, by bringing up the one image that you had showed, and the part when talking about how Meta is going to address AI now, because I actually had that.
Oh, yeah.
I posted a picture. I took a picture on a photo walk we did in Central Park, having playing around with it in Photoshop AI, doing the generative fill, and wanted to put a bear next to the waterfall. I'm like, all right, I want to
Naturally.
see how realistic it is. Yeah, let's go back to that part. And put it in, posted it up on my Instagram story, saved it on Photoshop like a regular photo to my camera roll, posted it in my Instagram story just as a joke. And up in the top under my name, where it normally tells you like what filter was used or any of the little information, it said AI, and it just had a little AI tag. And I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting. I'd never seen it before. I mean, I'm never really doing stuff like that, but I think you brought up the perfect not necessarily argument, but discussion here of, it's stuff that we've all been doing, clone stamping, removing. So, like to use your dust spots example, if I go in and clear the dust spots out of a picture of the sky, it's now going to tag it as AI, where under most circumstances, like, I don't really care if my photo gets tagged as AI, but if somebody's submitting something to a contest, I think
Right.
that's where when we start to get into the gray areas of, well, now this might not be able to win a contest, and we might have stuff that's going to be up in the air because somebody used AI to remove dust spots rather than a traditional clone stamp.
Yeah, and
Interesting
that, I
discussion.
mean, it's just wrong, right? I say that very rarely. I probably never said this on any of the, but it's wrong. It's a wrong way to approach it. It's just flat out wrong. And they realize that. The reason it's wrong because there's a spectrum of the use of AI, right? And we talked about this briefly a little bit on all the different episodes, but AI is being used for capture, right? For autofocus, for auto exposure, for all of that. Using AI, it is the better tool in some cases to remove very small things, to remove dust spots, to remove sun flare, for instance, in this case. Could you do it in a different way? Sure, you can use clone stamp and everything else in which it would not be tagged. So again, it's just the wrong way to approach it because what it does is it bundles everything into the same group. And then all of a sudden that group gets dismissed as, well, this isn't real. And it's in the same group as entirely generating the photo from nothing at all. And that's what I mean by completely the wrong approach to it. It doesn't help get us to a place where we can genuinely understand what was done to the photo, how real it is, because there's a whole spectrum, even without computers, the focal length and timing and all of that, what everything behind the camera or outside of the frame, forget it. We can go down that rabbit hole. And it's so easy just to use a clone stamp instead, and then you don't get penalized for it. It's just not the right approach. So they did change it, right? So now it's edit with AI, and then ideally it's not going to happen right away, but it would show what was done. And I think that's the right approach. We're going to iron this out eventually, I think, as an industry, trying to figure out, because we are going to be wrestling with this idea of authenticity. And we need to do that. We need to do that because otherwise, and this is already happening, no one's going to believe anything. No one won't even believe that you ran into a bear in Central Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what if
Yeah,
you
I
run into
mean, and
it in Canada?
that's where the discussion kind of gets off in the weeds, and it's like it's difficult because, you look at um in terms of misinformation and disinformation, more importantly, I would say different disinformation is probably more important than misinformation in this regard, where it's like we live in a world now where, people being deceived by information and photoshops and going into the world of deep fakes without really going off the
Yeah,
deep end here. I mean, I'm sure you guys see where I'm leading into. It's like it's getting into scary territory. And sometimes you don't even know how bad it's gonna get until the technology, someone exploits the technology or develops it to a certain point where it's like, okay, well, we didn't maybe see this coming, but now we're here and this is kind of freaky or dangerous. And, who knows what people are going to be able to do in the future with this. I think it's like without having, I would love to see more attention paid to the safeguarding. I feel like they just opened the floodgates and it was all about creativity and ease and making things easier and making things more accessible. And I feel like it was done in such a haphazard way in so many
yeah.
regards where it was just like, "Hey, let's not, you're opening Pandora's box. Well, why don't we, before we show all the good it can do, let's, make sure we check all the back doors and make sure that we have things locked down, and then we can proceed forward cautiously." And I feel like
Right.
it was kind of just the doors were kicked open and the
They were trying
horses
to
were
do
already out of the
something, it
barn.
wasn't implemented properly, but the intention is good, and we're gonna need to do it because we're already at a point where people are questioning everything. Is this real? Is this real? Will be the first question people ask. Is this real? And then everyone loses in that regard. Everybody loses. And it needs to be addressed not from the platform from which it posts, because you can easily just take a screenshot, run it through other software to remove the metadata, and then post it back on. And then all of a sudden you don't have that tag. There's always going to be ways to get around it, right? If you have the intentions to do so. But it needs to be addressed at the point of capture, right? Like a raw file genuinely can't be edited, from the true standpoint of that raw file. It's just the data essentially. And you can put a watermark in it. And there is an initiative with a lot of the camera manufacturers now already to have that stamp in there. So when it's manipulated, it happens at the point of capture, and it's done properly. And it's done in a way where people can genuinely submit, if they need to, the original image. I have no problem with people doing that, or I have no problem doing anything they want. It's art. But as long as we understand what we're looking at, as we need to wrestle with that until we get on the other side of it, because otherwise no one's going to believe anything. And then the art form is fundamentally different than what it started to be. It's a language, right? Photography is a language, and like all languages, they adapt, and there's never a time, there's never a stamp. It evolves, and this language will evolve too, and we need to evolve with it, but in a way that it doesn't challenge like the principles of the reality of what a photograph has the potential of representing. That's sacred, I think, to this art form.
What Cliff didn't tell us is he's in Switzerland right now writing a dystopian Black Mirror episode. That's no,
Right.
It'll
I
come
feel
out
like it's
soon.
we're getting
Yeah,
closer and closer. It's like, man, conversations that we're having
It's
now, it's
deep.
like, who would have thought 5 years ago we'd be talking about this stuff? You would have thought we were like loons, and now we're here talking about it seriously, and we're probably only even scratching the surface. It's wildly interesting.
yeah.
Who knows what the next 5 years look like?
I know, Susan, I'm over here. I'm like, man, maybe I should go back to film. Too old for this. Let me just go back to film and developing and keep it simple. It's things are just getting way, way, way advanced, way quickly, and I don't know. It's intriguing, and I think you're right, Cliff. You kind of hinted at it and hit the nail on the head where it's like, AI is already being used in autofocus system. It's already being used in cameras. I think it's only the beginning of what they're going to be able to do with cameras. Everything's about, hey, can we take you from, we don't want you post processing. We want everything to be done on the camera, and we don't want you using a computer. We
Yeah.
want it's like, constant struggle between the different sectors of the industry. And it's like, who knows the AI that's going to come to cameras and, in the future. And it's like, you can only advance the technology so much in a camera without going off into a whole nother tangent. So be interesting to see. It's always great, at least you guys, this is the one time in my job where I feel like I can completely talk off the rails, and it's
Hmm.
like right on topic. So thank you guys.
Perfect. Right on point. Yeah.
I know we
Oh,
get to,
it's
we
a
get to
pleasure.
explore the wild side of our creativity here, and it's just like, oh, he's just right on topic.
It's definitely gonna get wild and wilder.
Yeah, it's just gonna get crazier and crazier. And we'll keep everyone updated. And that's as best we can do is evolve. We can't stick our heads in the sand. We just have to pay attention to what's going on and be a part of this. And it's an evolution. It always has been. Photography has always been evolution. This isn't any different. It's just moving faster and faster. And what an amazing time to be alive, to be a part of this.
Yeah, I agree. It's like
I
you
say to
you
everyone,
either have a choice, be
embrace it.
scared of it, or go head on
Yeah.
and embrace it. And I think, look, there's always bad that can be done, but there's always great things that can be done with the same technology. So it's all what you make of it.
Yeah, and no one's stopping you from taking your camera out, your film camera, taking a tripod, getting everything right in camera. No one's stopping you from doing that ever, and no one will,
Yeah.
and you can be proud of the fact. You could even put a badge on there yourself that says unaltered in any way.
Mm.
No one's stopping that.
Yeah.
So there's room for everyone in this scenario. And I think in the long run, it could serve to be something very different than what we've seen before, and could really open up the floodgates for creativity
And
in a
maybe,
whole lot of ways that we
and
can't
Cliff,
even
maybe
anticipate.
you had a good point there. Maybe in the future we won't be saying this is made with AI. We'll be saying this is not made with AI. Because I think those
Yeah,
pictures will be less than the pictures made with AI.
I think
Put it
so.
on
I
them.
think there will be a stamp, and maybe it's just self-imposed at the moment. But because think about it, when someone takes a photo on even on their phone right now, and it's an amazing sunset or whatever it is, what's the first thing they say? I didn't touch this at all. This is straight out of camera, right?
Cliff, you went straight where I was going.
SOOC. SOOC. Give us a badge. SOOC.
Yeah.
And I think people will embrace that, as like a badge of honor, so to speak.
That's the whole thing that gets me is it's like to bring up you were inside my head. I'm thinking sunsets, and I'm like, come on, how many people? It's like when when we had the wildfire haze in New York, and it's like everyone's like turning their saturation up to 100 and their vibrancy, and they're tweaking their white balance and doing all this stuff, and it's like, okay, that's not what it looked like. I was outside in Midtown at the height of it. It's like we're tweaking things for effect. And you know what? Who cares? Because what's the goal of photography? It's to make somebody feel what you want them to feel when they look at your image, or feel what you felt when you saw that scene. So it's like, I think at a certain point, we're just arguing over nonsense. And it's like, look, there's always going to be people that are not going to be a fan of something. There's always going to be people that are. There's always, even in Ansel Adams' time, there were people that, okay, well, he was the original god of Photoshop. And there's going to be, okay, well, he wasn't a purist because he used to dodge and burn the hell out of his images. And then
Definitely
there's people
not.
that are going
Yeah.
to say that's part of the process. That's how you bring an image to life. So,
Well,
I
two
think
things.
it's
One,
all
cameras never captured what it looked like. I mean, and two, how boring would it be if all cameras did was capture what it looked like? We have 7 billion people just capturing what things look like. I'm not interested in that. I'm way more interested in someone being able to capture what their experience was like for them, their vision, their voice, their perspective. That's where it gets interesting. Who the heck wants to see just a camera that can just neutrally capture what it looks like? I'm
yeah.
interested in what they see,
I
what
think
they
it's
bring to the
more,
table.
sorry, Cliff. I think it's more important to think of photographers not as just light capturers, but as artists. And I feel like that gets kind of muddled sometimes when we think of, oh, everything has to be that authentic image. But if we're artists and we said, I'm a photographer, but I'm an artist. Oh, we ran out of time.
No, no, no. We're
Oh,
good.
sorry. I thought that
No,
I
you're
saw
good.
my screen change. So
Sometimes they're like, we want to see faces. We want to see these
okay, yeah.
faces
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
So yeah, if we thought of ourselves as artists more than just light captures with this camera, I think people would respect the differences and encourage it, encourage all these different modifications.
Yeah, because otherwise we're just camera operators, right? We've efficiently learned how to operate this piece of metal and glass. That's so boring, right? But if you have someone who's an artist, like only one person has that vision and that voice. And that's what we need more than ever. Not another neutral capture of something that's been captured a billion times. I'm interested in the vision of the voice. And now more than ever, this technology, I mean, that Maggie that I'm going to coin, right, where people can kind of interface in ways you shouldn't have to spend your time as to be a Photoshop expert. And I have all credit for people who do. But what about all those people who genuinely have such a unique perspective that just don't have that skill set and have this idea of what they want to convey? I'd love to see that. And I love to see that in done in an effective and beautiful way that does justice to their vision in the first place. And I think they're going to co-develop, that vision with technology, and one will embrace the other and enable the other and vice versa. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But the last thing we want is a neutral device that just captures everything, and all we are just nothing more than camera operators. That's the other side of it. And that's just as a dystopian, you know, result or consequence if we go on the other side. So I think this is a creative endeavor. The act of this, of interfacing photography and evolving it, is a creative endeavor. And that creativity is the one thing that really does separate us from AI. And what a beautiful thing that would be if we can only focus on our creativity and our vision and our voice, rather than being distracted by understanding the dynamic range so we can bracket to capture the scene in such a way, and hyperfocal distance, and worried about shutter speed so we don't, like, what you're missing is the point. What you're missing is the things that matter: the timing, the gesture, the moment, understanding the light, capturing your vision. And if we have nothing left to focus on that, I think that's going to be a beautiful time.
Susan, I say we get somebody that's really hardcore anti-AI on here, and
Mm,
we'll sit here and watch them and Cliff battle
yeah, the
for an
battle
hour.
begins.
We'll do like a debate
I
debate
encourage
style. We'll
it. I'd
moderate.
love to.
They
And
will
it's
need
not
to
that I
be
would
on
disagree
full
with them. I would
No,
agree with
yes.
them.
it's a great. It's always a great. It's like one of those things you can talk about it until the cows come home. At the end of the day, I think it's like, for the people who aren't into it, we could sit there and do the same stuff that AI is doing. It might take longer, and you could have arguably better results, arguably worse results, depending on your skill set. But at the end of the day, is anyone out there painting pictures? No, you're relying on the technology of the camera. No one's out there drawing a picture by hand. So that's all AI is doing. It's taking an idea and spitting it out based on a prompt that you're giving it. But I can go and Photoshop a bear into my Central Park image by hand. AI is
Yeah.
just doing it quicker. So
Or
I
you
don't
can
know.
put a stuffed bear in Central Park and take a photo of it.
Now we're talking.
We've actually done this, by the way, in Africa. That's a whole nother thing, but we've taken actual stuffed animal in Africa from that property, put it in the scene, lit it. Now, where's that? You know, it's real. It existed. We put it in there. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I think having these conversations is rather than us just present to you, I think it's nice to have those conversations, and maybe we do bring other perspectives on board as well, because everyone's got their own say in this, and we evolve, you know, together. And no one's ever going to stop you from doing your film photography. We know a film photographer, and he's made a whole amazing career on film, and he loves it. And now he's shooting with his iPhone, and he loves it even more. And it's fascinating to see. And there's no, like, a true creative doesn't worry about the tools. They just worry about like capturing their vision, and hopefully the tools help you get there, right? They're just tools. They've always been just tools. They're just getting better and better.
Well, there you heard it, everybody. We're going to invite everybody and we're going to have an open YouTube live room. It'll be like the
Ooh.
Royal Rumble next time. Everyone's unmuted at the same time.
Yeah.
There's no mute buttons. Fun times. It's always good having you guys on. I wish, like, this is great. I wish I could sit here all afternoon and and I think even this, just even talking about it gets the creativity going, and it gets you thinking, and it exercises parts of your brain that kind of get shut off in the day-to-day run-of-mill photography. So huge thank you to Cliff and Susan for joining us once again for this series. Been a great ongoing series. If you guys haven't been watching and following along, we'll try to get those links dropped in there. I don't know if we have time to get them dropped in now, but we will get those dropped into the chat for you guys to catch up on this series. And Cliff, Susan, great to see you guys once again, as always. But as always, great things come to an end. Another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space, and all of our bickering over AI is now in the books. Catch y'all next time. And the